So in this video, we're going to be going over myostatin and its effect on muscle growth, especially for South Asians. Now, if you've been struggling to build muscle in the gym, or your physique's not really looking the way you want it to look, if you're looking more like the guy on the left, or you're looking incredibly skinny, and you want to be more like the guy on the right, well, myostatin might be why you're being limited. So if you're wondering why you should listen to me, well, I'm a biomedical science graduate. I graduated first class, so I got a high distinction when I graduated. So I have a deep understanding of human biology and metabolism and hormones. And I've built my physique from scratch. So I went from being the fattest kid in school to being in the best shape of my life today. And as a South Asian kid who grew up overweight, I was constantly tired, I was constantly sick, and I know what it takes to overcome those challenges because I've lived them through my own experience. And I have a decade of self-education. So I'm 24 right now, but I've been researching about health, about fitness, and about endocrine science since I was about 15 years old. And ever since going from really overweight as a kid and also in my late teens to what I am right now with a fairly decent physique and able to achieve relatively good outcomes. So for example, like I was able to train Muay Thai in Thailand and run a 50K ultra in Fiji, and that was going from someone who wasn't really that fit before and really struggled with maintaining a healthy weight and really struggled with binge eating. And part of this video series is just going to be me teaching what worked for me, and just lessons that would help other South Asian men and other South Asian women and South Asian women as well, improve their health, improve their fitness. But yeah, so I went from an overweight kid to peak physical condition, training Muay Thai in Thailand. I've done a 50K Spartan Ultra in Fiji, and I've also gone to Mount Everest base camp through by hiking and trekking. And now I'm in the best shape of my life, and my life is a lot better than what it used to be, and that's because I've implemented the ideas that I will be exploring in this video as well as the other videos I'll be coming up on this channel. So let's actually talk about myostatin. Like, what is myostatin? So myostatin is a protein, and it's a protein that we produce so then we don't get too muscular. So if you take this bull, like this bull doesn't really have any myostatin or has a lower regulation or lower amounts of myostatin being released. So this bull, there's nothing to really tell this bull's body, hey, stop making muscle. So it'll continue to make muscle. So myostatin's role is to limit how much muscle you make so you don't get too big. And from an evolutionary standpoint, this is actually very beneficial because, until very recently, humans had a lack of calories. Back in the hunter-gatherer days, you didn't have an unlimited amount of calories. You didn't have high calorie, high fat foods that you can supply yourself with all the time. So our bodies had to evolve to downregulate muscle in order to preserve calories, because muscle is incredibly calorie intensive. And the way that it does this is it just tells the cells to stop muscle protein synthesis, and especially impacting the skeletal muscles, which is the muscles that people look at or think about when they talk about muscles. Technically, muscle and protein, there's a lot of different types of muscles in our bodies, and protein is used for more than just that. So, but we're mainly focused on the skeletal muscle and how it looks. So our DNA, depending on what your ethnicity is and depending on your ancestors and what they had to go through, our blueprint for the way that our bodies are designed are heavily influenced by the environment that our ancestors lived in. So if our ancestors lived in an environment where there wasn't that many calories, then we would have to increase the amount of myostatin produced to then decrease the amount of protein, to decrease the amount of muscle that's synthesized and preserve energy. Because in those types of environments, if you have too much muscle, well, then you're expending too many calories and you're more likely to starve to death. So you might find that people from areas that were stricken with famines, as it was in the case of many South Asian countries, especially in the last 200 years or so, they had to have high levels of myostatin because it was a survival incentive. Like there was a survival incentive or survival pressure for myostatin basically being upregulated in some of our communities. Not everyone. There's even though I say South Asians, this includes so many different people. Like there's so many different countries that fall under that. You have India, you have Sri Lanka, you have Nepal, you have Pakistan, you have Bangladesh. There's probably even more that I'm missing, and there is a range of genetics between all these people, and not everyone is the same. So you might be lucky enough to maybe, you have lower levels of myostatin, but just as an average, just generally across the board in many of the South Asian countries, because of colonization and because a lot of the farmland was taken away from the farmers that used to have them and replaced with, British people or like just colonists and their, whoever they wanted to put in for running the farmland, that led to many famines. And having a lot of famines will then select for people who are better able to survive when food is in short supply. And that is why, in many of these cases, the people that, before were able to put on a lot of muscle and had lower levels of myostatin, they would have passed away. And the ones that were able to, I guess, have more myostatin and have less muscle, they didn't have to eat as much during the day or didn't have to eat as much to stay alive. And because of that, they were able to survive these famines. And because there were so many famines, this has created an average, not like it's not like everybody, but an average where myostatin is upregulated. And things like genetics do change as food is reintroduced to populations, and genetics can be shifting. They're always shifting from generation to generation. And there's also epigenetics that can hold like a whole different thing I can go into to talk about, the way that some genes are turned on and some genes are turned off, depending on what we actually are eating and what our immediate environment is being basically like pressuring us to do. So basically, the reason why South Asians have a high levels of myostatin, or they seem to have high levels of myostatin, is that it's survival. So muscle is energetically demanding, and lowering muscle growth lowers daily caloric requirements. And in times when food is scarce, this gives a survival advantage. And these traits are passed on to kids and to future generations that get affected. So it doesn't mean that you can't build muscle. You can definitely still build a really good physique and build muscle as a South Asian. You just have to keep in mind that there's extra tricks that you can do to lower your myostatin levels and basically give you a better chance of muscle protein synthesis by following like a few key things. So you can still grow muscle if you're a South Asian despite higher than average levels of myostatin. And myostatin just makes it a little bit difficult, a little bit more hard to build and maintain muscle, but it does not make it impossible. So there is still hope. I mean, there is hope. Everyone knows South Asians who, without steroids, were still able to build an amazing physique, and everyone knows somebody. And a lot of that comes down to your diet, to your fitness, and to being really careful about all the different ways that your lifestyle can impact myostatin levels in your body. How to lower myostatin levels and improve muscle growth to create an aesthetic body. Now, we don't actually live in times of famine. Instead, we live in times of plenty. So unlike our ancestors who had to struggle to get calories in their diet, we have an abundance of calories. We have too many calories. And the food that we're eating these days is too much, a lot more than what we actually need. Because most people watching this video, and most people, this is most likely for your case as well, you probably live a relatively sedentary life. And if you aren't moving around as much, well, then it's not going to be as beneficial to eat that many calories. And our diets, our South Asian diets, which are high in carbohydrates, well, they were developed and they were made back when we used to do a lot of manual labor, when we used to expend so much energy working the fields, working, tilling fields, working in farms, really working from like day to like dusk, working from the morning all the way to the end of the day, on a lot of very difficult manual labor. And because we no longer do that, we shouldn't keep the same caloric intake as our ancestors would have had to do to kind of maintain that energy expenditure. So another thing is that by helping us promote larger muscle growth or improved muscle growth, then the muscles that we make are energetically intensive and require a lot more calories. So the more lean mass we are able to add to our bodies, then the more calories we can actually burn during the day without having to do as much. So by building up muscles, we burn more calories. And if we follow the PRISM framework, we can reduce myostatin and promote longevity. And we can follow the PRISM framework to reduce myostatin and to promote longevity. Now, P for PRISM stands for protein and a balanced nutrition. Now, it's really important that to lower myostatin levels, so myostatin levels go down if your body thinks that there's enough resources in the environment that you're living in. So if you increase your protein intake, well, then your body's going to be fine with lowering myostatin and then increasing your muscle growth. And in a very similar way, if you are also resistance training more than just doing cardio, and you're actually, pushing your muscles, the increase in resistance training would then lead to an increase in muscle growth as well. And not just that, the increase in resistance training would be a very good stimulus to lower myostatin, because your body notices that you're going to be requiring much more stronger muscles, and for that, it's going to have to down regulate myostatin. 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 Yep, myostatin. Um, and the more that you're trying to use your body, the more that you're exercising and going to the gym, then the better that's going to be for you, and the lower your myostatin levels are going to become. And your myostatin levels actually decrease for a period of 8 hours, roughly 8 hours, after you've done some sort of workout. So after you've done some sort of resistance training, your myostatin levels will stay low for about 8 hours. So then a way that you can kind of maintain lower myostatin levels throughout the day would be to train twice. So you can train maybe a smaller workout in the morning or a much harder workout in the afternoon, or vice versa, depending on your schedule. The next part is also really important, which is managing your stress. Now, believe it or not, stress releases a bunch of hormones into your bloodstream, such as cortisol. And cortisol basically causes your body to think that you're stressed. And because you're stressed, it's going to think, okay, well, it's, we're stressed. We're maybe being chased by something like a predator. Maybe we're being chased by a rival group. And because of that, it's going to deprioritize muscle growth, and it's going to raise your myostatin levels. So if you're able to, I guess, manage your stress, maybe through meditation, maybe through journaling, then you're able to also lower your myostatin levels. Sleep is also a very big one. If you're sleeping 7 to 9 hours every day, then your body feels secure enough to lower myostatin levels because it feels safe. What we don't realize is our body doesn't know if we're staying up to watch TV. Our body doesn't know if we're staying up to work on an assignment. It just thinks that we're breaking routine, and normally breaking routine and not sleeping enough is, if it's in a survival, it means that we're in a survival situation from the perspective of our body. So because of that, our body is going to upregulate myostatin. It's going to try and conserve calories and reduce the muscle growth. So we want to make sure that we're sleeping enough to tell our body, hey, you know what, it's safe, and we can actually, downregulate myostatin and then increase our muscle growth. Hydration is also so important because our bodies, if they think that we're not hydrated enough and that we're dehydrated, they're going to also mess with our hormones. They're going to upregulate myostatin because it's thinking, okay, we're living through a drought. We're in an area which doesn't have the resources to support muscle growth. So it's going to lower muscle growth. So by maintaining your hydration, drinking enough water every day, sleeping well, managing your stress, resistance training, and eating plenty of protein and food, you can actually lower your myostatin and vastly improve how much muscle you can put on. The importance of optimizing myostatin and other aspects of our metabolism. Now, as someone who's a high performer, just like yourself, you want to be operating at your best. And just like an engine that has been poorly maintained, it'll be hard for you to maintain a healthy and functional endocrine system if you don't take care of your myostatin, you don't take care of your metabolism. So you want to be ensuring that you are trying to optimize as much as possible to lower myostatin and to improve your muscle growth and to improve other aspects of your metabolism as well through the PRISM framework. And if you are interested, we do have a free health guide if you want to use it. It's linked in the first link in the description. And if you want a more comprehensive guide to help fix your metabolism or to improve your metabolism, there is a more comprehensive guide as well in the second link in the description.